We are back with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Chester Robards. International Women's Day coming up this Saturday, right? March 8th. And there's the International Women's Day March and Expo and a whole lot going on. Equality Bahamas is here with us this morning. We have Alicia Wallace and Claire Ayoub. Great to have you with us. Good morning.
Pleasure to be here.
All right, so we'll get to the events, but let's talk about International Women's Day and why this is important.
International Women's Day, every year we hear about the themes that are coming out of the United Nations as well as internationalwomensday.com. And the one from internationalwomensday.com is Accelerate Action, which is a really interesting one. That's the one that's super catchy, and you'll see people doing these hand symbols to symbolize the acceleration of action. And this one is particularly relevant to us here because we do not see any acceleration on action. It's just stagnant. And we've been talking about the same things over and over again, criminalizing marital rape, passing the gender-based violence bill, and this administration, as well as previous administrations, just keep playing in faces, right? Dangling it in front of us, saying, yeah, let's talk about it. We're going to do it. And then they switch entirely over to something else. The United Nations has a different theme, which is about all women. And you'll notice that they have all in capital letters, which is quite interesting. At the United Nations, when we're working on declarations and outcome documents, there's a lot of conversation around the language of women and all of our diversity. And that's usually where states kind of go back and forth about whether or not they'll accept this language. And it looks like the UN is shifting to this all, an emphasis on all, to ensure that we're not just talking about women who are doing well, and in the workplace, the women that, people call into the show to talk about all the time. But we're also talking about women who are experiencing poverty, women who are migrants, women who are LGBTQ, women who are rural, for us, the women who are in the family islands. We're thinking about all of these different women and their different experiences and needs and making sure that we're meeting them and not just the average woman who everyone kind of imagines.
Right. Okay. So that's important because as we were talking off air, people will say, especially in a country like the Bahamas, where it seems that women are achieving great success. And so why are these days important when women are at the top in their industries? So explain some more about why we have to think about not just those people who are doing well.
Absolutely. I mean, a world that is safe for women and equitable for women is better for everybody, right? And especially, as Alicia was saying, at all levels. It's so important. And I'm a filmmaker. I'm from the U.S., and I've been following the work of Equality Bahamas for years and just love what you're doing here because it's standing up, especially when people push back and say, why would you want more, right? You're doing well in these spaces. We can always be doing better. And just because you have one person who is in a position of power, that's a silo, right? That's one person. And setting a tone for others, for young people to say, I can do that, right? It's the great quote, like, you can't be what you can't see, is one of my favorite quotes to look at, is setting that tone. And instead of saying, I did it because of my gender, it's saying, I did it because of who I am, because of how I walk through the world, because of how I care for my neighbors, how I care for my community, and really raising people up that way. And I think gender can be such a roadblock that's really frustrating that you have to fight. You have to be the perfect woman in that space or the perfect leader. You almost have to put your gender behind. And looking at that, women being caregivers in a community, that's a soft skill that's really important. That's a powerful skill, right? Of people who bring empathy to the table, who are really caring for all women, for all people in that case. And especially looking at how many people, even with those caregiver skills, they are people who take care of their whole community, who put their community ahead of them. Those are skills that are really important too.
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned marital rape. We know this is one of those issues that we've been back and forth on for so long now. What does it say that we haven't resolved this issue as yet? And that so many are saying that we don't need to let the couple work this out. This doesn't have to go. We don't need to make this a law or criminalize it. What do you say to folks who are like, stay out of people's marital business?
The government and the public discourse is really showing us that there is a lack of care for women in general. And actually at Equality Bahamas, we're having conversations about marriage and what is the purpose of marriage and what are the consequences of marriage and does it even make sense for women to get married if that means that legally your spouse can rape you, if that means that you cannot pass on your citizenship to your children, then is it better to just stay unmarried and do what everyone keeps saying they don't want us to do, which is to live in sin? Maybe that's the better option for us, actually.
The safer option, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the marital rape bill has been sitting since 2023. And it is a vast improvement on the 2018 bill. The 2018 bill was terrible. The 2023 one actually strikes out those 5 words, who is not his spouse, removing the marital exception on the issue of rape and the definition of rape. It also adds the definition of consent, which we've been asking for, the statutory definition of consent. And the one thing that we really want to see added to that is the clause of non-immunity that makes it very clear that marriage is not an excuse or a defense for the act of rape. And this administration actually put that to the side on the gender-based violence bill, or trying to distract us with the gender-based violence bill, only to shift gears entirely and abandon that bill too, only to pass the Protection Against Violence bill, which does not do what the gender-based violence bill was drafted to do.
So what happens now? We just seem to be in limbo or spinning. What do you do? What do we do?
Based on what we've seen and what we've heard, especially from the Prime Minister, it looks like this administration has no plan to move this forward. So we have to call on women and the people who love women to stand up and to say that this is not acceptable and really make this an issue for the next election. I think it has really been framed and sold to us as a pitfall or as a negative, right? That if somebody does this, it means that they won't get back in. And we need to make it clear that this is something that we are prepared to make an issue, and this is a reason for us to vote or to not vote for a particular party. And a lot of times you only hear the naysayers, you only hear people who are against rights speak up. The people who actually agree with us aren't the people who call in. They aren't the people who send the text messages.
Yeah.
They aren't the people who are writing in letters to the editor, right? We need to get louder, those of us who are in support of rights and of human rights.
Yeah.
And I think what Alicia just said too is it's not just for women to be the ones speaking, right? It's for people who love women, who want them to be safe. It's not that when a door closes, you're no longer accessible by the law, right? It's looking at that. So using your voice to say this kind of action is not normal, and making sure that I think it can be such a taboo topic to talk about, and then people don't want to talk about it because it's not nice, right? It's not a nice thing to talk about, when in reality, again, coming back to all women, right? How do we protect our communities? How do we protect everyone as if they were our daughter, right? Yeah. Really important.
Yeah. All right. So I don't want this to become a marital rape discussion because that'll take up the whole show, right? But we do have this text here, and this seems to be always the concern. How do you protect men from false accusations?
Yeah, this is a really fun one, because you can be falsely accused of any crime, and it doesn't mean that we don't have laws. There are laws in place to handle false accusations, and that's it. We don't need anything special.
Also, I think looking at the statistics of false accusations versus actual accusations, it's so much smaller.
Especially in terms of marital.
I was going to say, right? It's so much smaller. Yeah. And looking at that is really important to say, because it comes from a fear of someone's life being ruined, right? That's always what we hear. What if it ruins the life of a man? But you look at it, someone's life is already being ruined by being taken advantage of, by being harmed. So it's also looking at that and stepping back and going, let's look at the whole case and let's look at proof. Right? Let's look at what our families say. Listen to the woman who's coming forward and saying,
right,
I was harmed in my home and I'm not safe here. Right?
So we've heard this. People say, well, since so few people make this accusation, why even have a law against it? What do you say to folks who say that?
Honestly, shame is a hell of a drug, right? Shame is very powerful in keeping people from speaking out. So just because people aren't talking about it doesn't mean it's not happening. And because it happens behind closed doors, it is a very silent killer, right? Is a silent harm. But feel free to take it away, Alicia.
Yeah, we also can't give you statistics on reports of something that's not a crime.
Right?
Where are we going to get them from?
Yeah. And even if it's only one person or two people.
Even if it's only one.
That's too many.
That is still too many. And it's also protecting future generations, right? It's looking at this and it can be so hard to see when you're so close to it. Step back and go, future generations, do we want our kids to be safe in their marital homes? Do we want, or again, for those rights to be eliminated as soon as they close the door? That I think looking at that and saying, what do we want for our future, right? What do we want, as well as for now, as well as for previous generations that didn't even have a space like this to talk about it, right? We look at the generations before us that it was just expected, don't talk about it, it's not nice. And those people have been living in a harmed space and have been hurt by this. So how can we do better for the future and for past generations to say, I didn't struggle and speak out for nothing?
How do you continue to approach the conversation with groups? I mean, we got an election coming up. We got one group saying, yeah, we definitely going to look at this. But again, history tells you maybe not. How do you continue to approach those conversations?
We are doing our best to meet with these people who want to be leaders, right? Or who present themselves as leaders. And it's really funny that they don't want to talk. They are too afraid, apparently, to even have the conversation and to face an argument that isn't the same as their own or the ones that they're trying to sell to other people. And, we have to challenge them to rise to the occasion. If you really believe this, then let's have a conversation about it. Let's have a conversation about the law and how it works. Let's have a conversation about the Bahamas and its relationships to other countries and the way that we want to exist as a sovereign nation, as a UN member state, and the kinds of engagement that we want to be having with other member states. And all of the declarations, all of the conventions that the Bahamas has already signed on to. We know that we ratified CEDAW in 1993. We participate in the Universal Periodic Review. The Bahamas is to get a seat on the Human Rights Council. And for what? To not uphold obligations? Why were these documents signed? Why were these conventions ratified if no one is prepared to actually step up and make the necessary changes so that we come into full compliance? These are real conversations that we have to have. And one of the things that we're bringing back, we started this in 2020, is the process where we develop feminist standards for governance. So we know that, the PLP always brings their charter, the FNM brings their manifesto, all these other parties bring their whatever, dream selling material. It's time for us to put together our own manifesto, charter, agenda, the things that we as a people want. So we are continuing that process. We'll be doing that right after International Women's Day. We'll be picking that back up, looking at some main areas like health, education, economy, climate and the environment, youth, looking in these categories and asking people, what are the issues that you see? What is really the root of the problem? Who is responsible for fixing this? And what are the steps that we need to take? And then coming up with some clear recommendations. We'll be packaging this and it'll be on us. We have to sell that to the political parties and say, you want our vote, then this is the level that you need to rise to.
Yeah. We're talking with Alicia Wallace and Claire Ayoub, representing Equality Bahamas, talking about International Women's Day. This text here, I heard your list of things to support women, but why does it always appear that the loudest outcry is about the marital rape issue and LGBT rights over poverty for women and children and safe spaces for these individuals? I'm asking as a woman who has an open mind. That's the text.
Yeah, we're not tiering issues, right? We're not creating a hierarchy of needs here. Marital rape comes up a lot because it has been promised over and over again. And we have bills that have been presented again and again and abandoned. So we have to keep talking about it. And also because it is such a basic right to be able to give consent and to withhold consent. And it is such a fundamental issue that we're saying when you marry, you become the property of your spouse. And in particular, let's be real, we're saying that women become the property of the men that they marry. And this is fundamental. This is a foundational issue with gender and gender ideology and the way that we look at women and men in society. It's really a key issue for us to address. We're also working on the issue of women experiencing poverty. We're looking at equal pay for work of equal value. We're looking at a lot of different issues. But again, I want to remind people, Equality Bahamas is actually a pretty small organization. We have no paid staff. It is entirely volunteer run and probably 90% volunteer funded. There is a limit to what we're able to do. And we really try to address all of these issues as they come up while working on some of the fundamental issues that got us started, which are marital rape, nationality rights, and in general, looking at domestic violence and intimate partner violence.
Yeah. And to add to that too, I mean, looking at issues of poverty, marital rape, it crosses every boundary, right? It's an issue of power. It's an issue of someone having power over somebody else and taking away those rights. So that is absolutely a poverty issue as well.
Yeah. Advocacy is a big part of our work, but we also do a lot of community engagement. And maybe people who listen to radio don't realize that, but we have monthly events, Women's Wednesdays, where we bring women together to talk about lots of different issues, financial management, health, breast cancer screenings, all kinds of things we're doing on a regular basis. We have Feminist Book Club. Join us, read a book. We have conversations about the book that always seeps into sort of personal lives and challenges that we're facing. You know, when you start to bond with the group, a lot of these things come up and we're able to share resources. So there's a lot more that we're doing in addition to the advocacy.
Yeah, and it's really cool too. I mean, looking at International Women's Day, the reason it's so great too is it brings people together. And when women speak to each other, same thing for men, right? When you come together and you are honest with each other, you realize you're less alone than you thought you were, and you find solidarity in that. So that's why community is so important, right? It's sitting around, same thing, whether it's your family, your friends, your chosen family, is looking around and saying, I'm not alone here. I feel stronger than I felt before I got here. So we can do things, we can do hard things together, take that action, not just speak.
All right, so you've heard this before. So people will say, sure, we might not have had a female prime minister before, but we've got the Speaker of the House, we've got the Governor General, we've got the head of the Senate, we've got women who are heads of hotels, banks, big companies. It appears that it's the men in the country who are really struggling. There are fewer men in college, men are dropping out of high school at higher rates, they're getting murdered more frequently. More needs to be done for men. What do you say to folks who are saying we need to put the focus on men, not so much women, who in the Bahamas at least have really achieved quite a lot of greatness?
Yeah, I think women have really come a long way, women and girls, and that's through our own effort. And I think that's through parenting, you know, parents saying, you are going to have it so much harder as a woman. And for that reason, you need to do better in school. You need to go to college. You need to do well there. Whereas for the boys, it's kind of, well, you can get into a trade. You can go to a technical or a vocational school and do something else. And that's completely fine. You'll be able to make the same amount of money as a woman who goes off to college. This is the idea that people have. Wow. And so women, girls are pushed a lot harder. And that's one of the reasons that we're seeing girls and women in these positions and excelling in school. It's not just some magical thing. It's that we have been pushed because of the recognition of gender inequality, even if it's not called by that name, right? Our parents kind of knew there were certain things that I was looking at when I was wanting to go to college, and my parents were like, are you sure you want to go in that direction? Here are some of the barriers that you might face. You need to consider all of these things. And there seems to be a real concern about men and boys, but it's really interesting that this concern comes up almost exclusively when we talk about women and girls. And for those who are really concerned about men and boys, create the space.
Yeah.
Do the work to help men and boys who you see struggling. Because I see the issue of gender-based violence against women. And I see it as being an interpersonal form of violence, and I also see it structurally. And I see the relationship between very archaic colonial laws and the ways that we behave and the ways that we treat each other, based on gender, as well as other markers. And those are the things that I'm working on. But I'm very happy for people who are passionate about other things and see other issues to step up to the plate and do the work, just like I'm doing the work.
Yeah. Very well said. Very well said. All right, let's talk about what's going to be happening in the lead up to International Women's Day and what you're going to be doing on International Women's Day.
We have been hard at work all year preparing for the International Women's Day March and Expo, which we've been doing since 2017. So on Sunday, we had a great sign making event and we did some screen printing. So you'll see some of those shirts on the road on Saturday. And this evening, we're very excited. Claire came in yesterday to screen her film for us this evening, Empire Waste.
I'm so excited. So this is a film I wrote basically for my younger self. It's about teens learning to love their bodies through fashion design. So the whole part of it is like loving yourself exactly as you are is a radical act. So it's people of all different backgrounds, abilities. It's really exciting, and just accepting yourself as you are, and that you're worthy of following your dreams exactly as you are.
Wow.
So we're really excited. And so this is my first screening in the Bahamas, my first time in the Bahamas. So I'm very excited.
Very nice. Where can we see the film?
It is on, I'm not sure if it's playing in, let me find out. It's on definitely Prime Video for download, Amazon, Apple TV, Hoopla, libraries, stuff. But I'll get all the website stuff for you.
Well, we can see it tonight, though.
You can see it tonight at the
yeah.
National Art Gallery of the Bahamas on West Hill Street. We'll be there at 6 o'clock. Try to be on time, because we want to make sure that we start playing the film early enough that we have a chance to have a little conversation with Claire after, and we don't want to keep people too late because it's a school night. People got work tomorrow. So try to be there as close to 6 o'clock as possible. We're going to have snacks and drinks. It's completely free of charge, as we do at Equality Bahamas, because we do care about people who are experiencing poverty, and we want them to be able to be in the space and share space with us.
Yeah,
6
and for
o'clock.
anyone who's interested in the arts or asking questions, I love answering questions about like demystifying filmmaking. So
Okay.
if you come on by, and there are no stupid questions ever.
Excellent.
How long is the film?
It's 94 minutes.
Oh, that's a feature.
It's a feature. It's
Wow.
really fun.
Excellent. That's today. And
And then on Saturday, meet us at Eastern Parade. People are like, where is Eastern Parade? It's that lawn between Scotiabank East Bay and St. Matthew's Cemetery, right by the bridge to PI. You access it from Dowswell Street. There's parking there. Meet us there at 8:45 on Saturday to choose your sign. We made lots of signs, so you don't even have to make your own if you don't want to. Pick your sign, learn some chants, and then we hit the street for the march. It's a pretty easy march. It's just from Eastern Parade to the Dundas on Mackey Street. So it takes us 30 minutes or less to get there. Once we get to the Dundas, we have a little surprise. If you were there last year, it's the same surprise, so you should show up for it. And at 10 o'clock, the expo opens. Miss Deidre will do a little Zumba. So that's a great little energy boost after the march. And after that, people are free to roam the expo. Some of the exhibitors are the Bahamas Crisis Center, the Dignified Girl Project. Those are the folks, Philippa Dean leads that, and they're making sure that there are menstrual hygiene products in schools. They're putting up the what do you call those? Like the machines in the walls, so you can get them for free.
Dispensers.
Dispensers,
Yeah, yeah,
yes. They also provide underwear and things like that to girls and women who wouldn't otherwise be able to get them.
This is a new thing they do?
They've been doing this for years.
That's
The
exciting.
Dignified Girl Project, really, really cool.
we had them on the show a few years ago. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
good.
It's so
still
exciting.
going.
I heard about the project, but the dispenser thing, is that a
That's
new
fairly
thing they
new,
do? Oh,
like
okay.
in the
That's
last
really
year or two.
exciting.
That's good.
Yeah,
Good.
really, really cool.
That's a big, speaking
Yeah,
of money,
yeah.
that's a big barrier for people or feeling like they can't come to school because
Yeah, and we welcome people to bring donations if they want of pads and tampons and things like that for the Dignified Girl Project, so they'll be there to collect. Hands for Hunger will also be with us. We'll have the UN Office of the Resident Coordinator out as well. I think OHCHR, they're in Nassau now. They'll probably be there at some point. And then there are sessions that are happening. Every hour there's a different session. There's always something for the body. So yoga, salsa dancing, and self-defense.
which is at the same time as mine, and I'm like, can we do it at the same time? Can I be like punching while I teach about filmmaking?
Maybe
no,
not.
honestly, but it's like especially to like hype up Alicia. I've been following this from the U.S. for like the last 10 years, her work and what you're doing down in the Bahamas, and seeing this organization come together and being able to be here for it with that much talent in the space and bringing people together is really exciting.
Yeah, so Claire's doing a session on filmmaking. We have Nicolette Bethel is going to do a session on writing for the stage, which is
Awesome.
great, particularly because the deadline is coming up for short tales. If you wanted to submit something for short tales to play at Shakespeare in Paradise, I think the deadline is May 15th or 16th.
Okay.
So this is a good time to get some tips
So
for
this is
writing
a
your play.
full day. Lots going to be happening.
10
out there.
to 3.
Plus, Guardian Radio is going to be out there.
Yes.
2 shows going to be broadcasting live. The Happy Hour with DeAndre Cartwright and Tell It to Stania with Stania Davis as well. So it's going to be a lot. On International Women's Day, there on the Dundas grounds. Great
Yeah,
stuff.
we're very excited to have a little happy hour with Deandra and tell it all to Stania about what's going on site. There's a lot happening all day.
All right.
So exciting.
So we have about a minute left. Your final words to folks as International Women's Day approaches, and again to the folks who are feeling left out. What do you say to them, and your message to folks as the day approaches?
We gave you a little overview. If that kind of all just blew right by you, you can get all the details at lu.ma/IWD 2025. So Luma, lu.ma/IWD for International Women's Day 2025. You'll see all the events listed there. This is an event that is centering women and girls, so we want to see you on the march. Of course, we would love to see people of all genders come and support all of our demands. We have signs for all kinds of different things: my body, my choice, criminalize marital rape, equal pay for work of equal value, big feminist energy, all kinds of things. Come out. You can even bring your own sign. And if you feel like this is not necessarily the space for you, you maybe don't want to be on the march, that's fine. You can be at the Dundas waiting for us. We always need help handing out water. If you just want to be a part of it in a different way, great. And if you're not available, follow us on all of the socials, Equality242, or just look up Equality Bahamas to see what else is going on. We have lots of events, and maybe this one just isn't the one for you, and that's okay. We'll see you next month in April for the next Women's Wednesdays.
Okay. Wonderful stuff. Alicia Wallace, Claire Ayoub, nice meeting you. Great to have you.
Likewise. This is so great. Thanks for having us.
And happy International Women's Day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.